Hello there and welcome to Il Salotto Sessions. I am Sara Seravalli, an Italian event organizer with a profound enthusiasm for design and architecture, bringing over 15 years of experience from my work across showrooms in Milan, Paris and London. Fueled by a passion for connecting people in the design world, I founded Design Pop-Up in 2014, a specification-focused event that has since traveled throughout the UK and Ireland. Today I'm expanding my vision with Il Salotto, a vibrant space, both physical and virtual, dedicated to inspiring meaningful conversations and fostering connections within the design community. I hope you will enjoy my chats. Hello there and welcome to this new episode of Il Salotto Session. I'm here today with another Italian girl, Marta. Hi, Marta.
Hello. Hi, Sam.
So Marta Bogna and I met, we're not going to say how many years ago, but we met a few years ago when I was still in London working for one of the showrooms in Clerkenwell, and Marta was working for Caro Communications, who is, I don't know if they still are, but at the time they were curating the communications for Clerkenwell Design Week. So we had a couple of opportunities to work together for, I think I've done 2 Clerkenwell Design Weeks as an exhibitor. So that's where Marta and I met and worked together. Then life comes into play. So I moved to Glasgow, Marta moves on. And funnily enough, in the last few months, I started Il Salotto, she started Bottega Bogna. So obviously, Marta, we are both Italian, and we came to the same conclusion that it was important to keep our Italian heritage for the names of these new businesses that we just created. So what was your idea behind it, and what's Bottega Bogna?
Like you said, I wanted to convey my Italian roots, and I'm positioning Bottega Bogna as a boutique communications consultancy. And this idea of craftsmanship and the sort of like care that goes into all the projects and all the work I do was very much the driver to choose the idea of a bottega, because it's a sort of like small workshop where you are quite hands-on, follow through your projects with a level of care and a level of involvement that you don't really find in big agencies, because that's not the nature of how they work. And obviously my surname is Bogna, so I also liked the sound of Bottega Bogna. And I've had some quite interesting conversations from people that think I'm working for Bottega Veneta, and you're like, no, that's not it. It's just a way of saying a workshop or a little shop. So I like to say that the bottega is open. But yeah, I thought it was a nice, nod to my Italianness and, the made in Italy level of passion that we bring to the table, which is what my clients like really. And the level of expertise and knowledge and care is really the main driver here. So yeah.
So you've been working quite a lot in both design, architecture and art over the last few years.
Yes, so my journey has been quite interesting and very much at the cross of many cultural and creative industries. But when I look back, there is a real red thread that sort of like unifies my 20 years of having worked in the sector. I studied communications in Bologna some time ago, and it was under Umberto Eco. So I had the real luxury and privilege to study with one of the founding fathers of semiotics, and the interest in language and how a language influences the way you think and your brain works was very much at the core of my
unfortunately,
formation.
one of my professors was his wife, which wasn't as inspiring as he was.
But when you're young, you just absorb things, and you're like a little sponge that tries to make sense of the world, or you think you know everything, and then you're like, well, I didn't know anything back then. But it was a real privilege to have that. And following my communications degree, I then moved to economics, and I did a postgraduate degree, which was twinned with the Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And it was about management for the creative industries. So, my degree in communications really fed into the understanding of marketing and communications and what you need to do to manage creative industries. However, all the foundational economic stuff, then I sort of like had to like, wrap my head around. And as part of this degree, you had to have a 6 months internship anywhere, which you were, able to find by yourself. And so I had finished my exams in advance. I couldn't quite graduate. I had 8 months to spare in my, university life. So I applied to the Leonardo Scholarship. I don't know if it still exists, but it was a mobility, a European Community Mobility Scholarship for internship abroad. And so it happened, I went around Arte Fiera, which is the main contemporary art fair in Bologna, which at the time was really, really good. And I went to speak with all the international galleries there to see if anyone would take me. And I had 4 or 5 offers on the table after that. And I had 3 galleries in London and 2 galleries from the Netherlands. And I was really torn. I didn't know what to do, but English, I studied in English, my university, my degree was in English. So I felt perhaps I was better in London because obviously the language was maybe less of a barrier. And one of the galleries that had offered me a placement was a very small gallery in the East End. It was in Oxton Square, just at the time when White Cube had moved in the east of London. And I felt maybe, I knew of White Cube, I knew of the YBAs, and I felt perhaps it was a bit more of an interesting place to be. So I moved to London. I wrote my dissertation, and it was all about the networks the importance of the network in contemporary art and the London art scene. And from then I started my adventure, and I really enjoyed communicating my exhibitions and artists. And so my journey into communications kind of started there, really, if I look back. And when my gallery time came to an end, I was there for about 2 years. I then moved immediately into PR because I sort of felt that was what my, int laid in. And I was lucky enough to join Brunswick Arts for a few months as a sort of like, external consultant. And they were working at the time setting up the Gulf Art Fair, which is now Art Dubai. And they were launching Fondazione Prada in Milan. So the fact that I spoke Italian kind of helped a little bit in navigating all the, strange Italian ways of doing things. And then I moved on to another visual arts agency. I then moved in-house for a few years, and I worked in a contemporary dance theatre, so a completely different world, but still a very, a creative industry. And after that, I finally landed at Caro, where I was a director for 10 years, and I started off working with design, so lots of Italian brands, and there's too many to mention, but basically between festivals and showrooms and brands and designers, I sort of like work with all the main names in the design scene in Italy, which was incredible. And then because of my art background, I got involved in all the projects that had a cultural aspect. So all the various museums, whether architectural museums like the Sir John Soane's Museum or Pizzangen Manor, where heritage was important, to all the sort of like main restoration projects. So if an architect was working on a new wing of, whichever international museums, I'd get involved because I understood how museum worked. Biennales, Triennales, Venice Biennale, Milan Salone del Mobile, and so on and so forth. So I was very fortunate to be able to see all of that. In my last agency project, I ended up working on a very ambitious land art project in Saudi. So I got to sort of like understand, how very large international projects come to be. And this is when I decided that too big was too much for me, and I wanted to go back to doing things that are a bit more boutique, and hence Bottega Bogna was born. So yeah, and I work with like really lovely established clients who work in design, architecture, curation, visual arts, hospitality. So I still have a really, really exciting range of projects that keep me busy and occupied, but is something that I can look after from beginning to end rather than having to manage, 20 teams on, 50 different time zones. And then, your time is taken by organizing diaries, basically. So yeah, it's a different life, but I'm finding it incredibly fulfilling, and it's been very good.
So what's driving you?
So I'm a very curious person, and I feel that there is a lot to be learned from many different creative outputs. And I also feel really quite strongly that design and architecture have a very formative force in the way we live every aspect of our life, from the glass you drink your water from, to the way a building is making you look around it, or the public space is organized. So I have this drive to see things done better. It's like a civic sense of how things should look and feel, and how they should perform for us citizens. So this is what drives me. When things are well designed, it doesn't mean that they're more expensive, or it doesn't mean that they're made of gold. It means that they work better. So good design should be the foundation of everything we do. And when I say design, I mean design in a broader sense. It's a big church. So yeah, this is what makes me interested, and I find
get out of bed every morning.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Like
so
that.
This year you've been a lucky one. You've been to both Salone and the Biennale. Did you notice any common ground, or is completely two different shows?
I actually found them really different. Maybe this year more than others. And I should say that I have been privileged to go to both Salone del Mobile and the Architecture Biennale for over a decade. So I feel like I've seen a few different editions. Maybe let's start with Milan Salone, because I really felt this year was a bit different. And this has been coming for a while, but it's probably the first time that I felt the design made for the public took over from design for the professionals. And obviously, Salone del Mobile is still the beginning of the design calendar, is where you have all the trades, all the professionals, all the incredible brands coming together. I should also say that I sometimes visit the actual fair, but most times I actually spend my week going around Fuori Salone. Especially this year, my mission, if you like, during the week was to look for collectibles and design innovations and new methodologies. So I actually skipped the Salone altogether, and I spent my 4 days going around the various districts in Milan. And I guess my main criticism is that there were really big brands in fashion and automotive taking over, very large palaces, which has happened many times. But I feel that they were aiming primarily to the general public. The amount of queues I've seen this year has been unprecedented. There's always lots of queues. If you didn't make it on the sort of like VIP day or press day because you'd seen another 50 things those 2 days, there was no chance to go because you'd queue for like 6, 7, 8 hours, and it was just insane. And obviously I wasn't there to queue to see some commercial installation. I'm there to, look for new design and something that is exciting, and I'm there for work. So I haven't got time to queue for hours. And I just felt that didn't quite work for me the same way.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I don't know if you saw online, there is an article by our common friend Daniel Gava that is saying something very much along the lines of what you just said. Salone felt like too much of a show off, while Clark Design Week, London Design Week was more where the innovation could be found, and then the proper design.
You still have proper design. I still found some great stuff in Milan. Alcova was a fantastic highlight. I always find that Milan gives you these incredible venues that, are paired with amazing installations. And you still had all of that. Piscina Cozzi, where Sayem did their installation, was amazing. Bocci, the lighting brand, had a beautiful apartment that they own in Milan, all done up. Cassina did this incredible installation at the Teatro Lirico. There was, lots to see at capsules in terms of like exciting, not necessarily new, but very exciting brands that did like really cool things. But it took some digging to find them, and you kind of like had to like really sift through things, which I feel is not really what Milan Salone should be about. So this is my personal thing. And to make a comparison with the Venice Biennale, now, obviously the Architecture Biennale is nowhere near as busy as the Art Biennale, but it's still a really busy week and there's lots to do. And this year I felt it was, first of all, I had the opportunity to really go around and see quite a few different things, and new foundations opening, new spaces being made available, which, in this current climate is remarkable and laudable. There's a new, I really want to do a little flag for a new Kunsthalle that has opened in Piazza San Marco in the old Procurate Vecchie space, which has just been redone by Chipperfield Architects. It's called SMAC, and they have an amazing program of exhibitions that is going to basically support and maybe offer something slightly different from the main exhibition and the main pavilions inside the Biennale. The Fiorucci Foundation is opening a new space. I think, it felt really positive and really exciting, and the quality of the exhibitions that were on display was phenomenal. Not everything is fantastic, but what I managed to see, Fondazione Prada, Palazzo Marchetti, incredible. So I came back with my eyes full of stars, really. And obviously, the Venice Biennale itself is always very exciting, and the exhibition is always lovely. So I would recommend the everyone that has the chance to go and see all the different pavilions and the responses to the main theme. But I felt it was not commercial in any way, shape, or form. It was very much the sort of like cultural
Doing his job.
conversations and doing his job, exactly. In fact, if I can make a suggestion, I would probably recommend that Milan Design Week becomes a little bit more like the Venice Biennale. So they have a vernissage week, so you don't have to cram all your openings in one day or 2 days.
Yeah.
So you have your Monday to Thursday is open to the trade. So you actually have the chance to see something without having to like spend 5 minutes somewhere, because then you have to go somewhere else. And then maybe open to the public at the weekend, or maybe like, have a second week, make it last for a little longer. All these installations are so expensive, it's perhaps a little unsustainable to only have them open for a few days. So maybe like working it like that would make everyone a little bit happier without feeling that, they're not talking to you anymore.
It makes complete sense. When I worked for the Cosmoprof, which is the biggest trade show for the beauty industry, that's exactly how it worked. We had the first 3 days trade only, and then weekend open to the public. So it's really a no-brainer, because people like us, we're not there for fun. We are there to maximize our time, our expenditure. Yeah, I wouldn't. If I see a queue, I would just walk away.
Exactly. And when you see queues after queues after queues, then you sort of like need to think, is somebody posting on Instagram more important than me, that maybe I'm there with clients? Or, I had friends who were taking their clients for interior projects and they couldn't see certain things. So, you just get a bit annoyed because you're there for work. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes.
Listen, going back to your Bottega Bogna, obviously, as you know, I've been doing quite a lot of work now with Superbeam, which is this media agency based in London, like you, that they are specialized in videos. And then the video for Risalotto is almost finished, not yet there yet.
Exciting.
But yeah, very exciting. Talking to the founder, video is really the language, the modern language of today, while PR is more historically more connected to the publication, it's now digital, but it used to be printed publications. So where do you think we are at the moment? Is it all digital, or is there still scope for investing into a printed article?
When you say investing, I take that as, do we still think it's worth appearing in an editorial article on a national newspaper or a magazine, rather than necessarily buying a piece of advertising? Because obviously there's slightly different things. Now,
advertising, I never really, advertising is...
It's just that it's a different beast.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about my clients, and I'm thinking about the architectural practices. There's something they want to shout about. There is maybe a project that is particularly innovative, or a product that is innovative. So would it be worth working with you and trying to get you on a magazine?
So I feel that there is the fact that videos and obviously social media are now part of the mix. I don't feel it's necessarily taken away from, editorial critic, journalist endorsement. In fact, it's just another ingredient. And this is why I feel it's very important to still, embrace your communications properly, because when you work with me or with, an agency, if you're a little bit bigger, it's not just here's an article that somebody's published about you, is who are you? What are you communicating? What do you want people to know about you? Why should anyone buy your product? What is
What's the
behind it?
story?
So is the story and the storytelling. Once you have your storytelling right, then you decline it in different, formats. So, whether it's for social media, whether it's for video content, whether it's for an editorial article. And let's not forget that, the role of the comms consultant or the PR is not necessarily to tell a journalist what to write. In fact, it's never, is to propose a story and propose an angle and propose something that is different and interesting. And then it's the journalist who takes it to their editor and says, I think this is right for our publication, and then makes the story their own. So you really are a gateway, but all the work that goes before you can do that step is something that only an expert can really help you with. So, is the public relations is not just what is the output on, articles, is what you are communicating that is super important right now more than ever, to be honest, because we are what we communicate. And in this time where space for attention is little, you don't have many chances to get it wrong, to be honest. So I would say it's still a very important exercise to do. And then let's face it, when you're looking for something or when you don't know something, the first thing you do is you go and Google it. Or at least I know I do. Or I go on social media and see what I can find about it. And if all of a sudden there's an article that pops up in the Times or, one of the publications that we all know, like Vogue or whatever, then I feel like, oh, these guys must be good because, such and such has talked about it. So I still feel it's a very important element to consider. And obviously it's not the only one anymore. The marketing mix has broadened, but it is, I feel, still a very one that you probably want to consider, I would say.
So you can help your clients find that story that the markets want to hear about.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what the market wants to hear about. It's what is your story? What makes you different from everyone else that does something similar? Why?
Obviously, apart from Isalotto, it's so unique, nobody can do anything as similar.
Of course, but what I'm saying is, what are your core pillars? What is your narrative? But also, what is your legacy? What is it that you want to leave behind? And when you start something, is maybe not the first thing that you think about, but is what are the key messages? What are the 3 things that you want anyone to take away from any conversations with you? And you'd be surprised how so often you talk to people and you look at their website and it goes to like page 5 before they actually say what they do. And you're like, I don't know. Don't you tell me. So sometimes it's really simple, scale of importance, hierarchy, level of narratives, literally in what order are we telling your story? Because people have short attention spans, so you kind of need to be impactful and fast. And then once you've grabbed people's attention, then you can go a little bit more in detail. So it's from macro to micro, but it is a process that needs to be developed, and it kind of helps. I always see communications almost as a branch of business development, if you like, because you need to be extremely clear and appealing, and you need to have your wording done properly and crafted correctly. You need to understand your audience as well, because who is it that you are communicating to? Not worse than saying the right things to the wrong audience, because they're not going to get there. So it's that mapping that I feel is very important in any business, really. But obviously, because I work with like design and architects and artists, it's so easy to forget that sometimes you speak to somebody in a certain way and you speak to somebody else in a certain way, because that's the level of the conversation. This is what we're here to remind our clients of. And we're here to help really making a success story and telling the story in the right way, or in a way that sticks at least. So I feel it's still very, very important.
So just to wrap this up, if you had no limitations of budget, or you can pick the client you want and get them to spend how much money you want and use whichever tool you want, which story would you like to tell? What kind of project would you love to work on?
So this is actually quite a difficult question, because from experience, projects with unlimited budget are extremely difficult to manage. So even if they sound like a dream.
Okay, so let's say you've got a very small budget, so you need to be creative. You've got a very small budget.
No, what we want maybe is a budget that makes sense and allows you the opportunity to, be bold and be, creative. But you have the means to actually make the bold happen. Because when you have zero budget, you can be creative, but then, do you know what I mean? It's still zero budget. Maybe gonna go a little way, but it's not gonna go a very, very long way. No, what I mean is like when you have this budget, which, from experience, I'm very aware of what happens when the client tells you, go ahead, the sky is your limit. And then it's not really like that. They turn into a nightmare, frankly. So what I would like is to work on a project that has real positive impact. So, I said that before, I'm really curious. I have my eye on a number of different conversations that are shaping in a very interesting way and areas that are shaping to maybe be producing something new and something that is truly exciting. I'm looking at the Maghreb, I'm looking at East Africa, West Africa. There's so much happening that really feels exciting. And, from a communications point of view, I feel like there's still so much work to be done to deal with post-colonial trauma. I feel like that there's a lot of need for equality, and the role that design and architecture can play within that conversation, I feel, is often overlooked. So I would like a project that brings that to the forefront and, sort of like having tangible results in the way that we live our life on a sort of like day to day, or the way we talk about things. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of a dreamer, but I really feel that there are interesting conversations that are happening, and there are interesting projects that should be on everyone's radar and they're not, or conversations that we see happening that are bringing us back decades or centuries, and I just cannot fathom what is going on. So I would like the conversation to progress rather than regress. Yeah, just a bit of sense in people's, political agenda would be great. So yeah, I think that's what I would like to see. It's not infinite
social
budget,
impact, positive social impact.
Exactly that.
Yeah. So we are totally in agreement on that one. And I wish you all the best for Bottega Bogna, and hopefully I'll come with you to Venice next year then.
You should do. Next year is the art Biennale, so let's do it. Let's do some art.
I'm quite happy with the art as well, and learn something from you even more so.
Perfect.
Right. Thank you, Marta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah, so much for asking me to come onto your podcast.
Thank you very much for listening to Il Salotto Sessions. If you enjoyed the chat, please make sure you share with your friends and follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. For more information on our events, please visit ilsalotto.design and designpopup.com. You can also find us on Instagram _designpopup and Il Salotto Glasgow, as well as LinkedIn. Should you have any feedback, questions or suggestions, please do get in touch at hello@ilsalotto.design. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.